Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
I think I might just rent because I'm not sure. Yeah. 3 to 5 years from now, when you don't sell that house and make $100,000 in equity, you're going to be really sad that you're leaving a rental location and you're just going to get maybe a security deposit back.
Yeah. Yeah. And if
maybe
if you sell prior to that 2-year mark, you could potentially pay capital gains if your, if your equity goes up that much. But I will say though, it is one thing. A girlfriend of mine and I, we had a whole conversation yesterday that a lot of people are not, like, when interest rates are that low. I felt like in the last couple of years, I saw a lot of people buy houses that were not within their means, right? Like you're like, oh, well, it's 2%. I can buy a $500,000 house because I'm only paying 2% on this. When really you should probably have been buying a $300,000 house just to stay within your spending means, right? And I think that was the higher the interest rates go, I think that's really giving people pause to think, should I be spending?
Marriott's on the move. What? Marriott's on the move. Again? Marriott's on the move.
If you're dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. All right, well, welcome to the show, everyone. Today we have a really interesting conversation going. This is the first time I've had 3 people total, so we'll see how this goes from a video and recording perspective. But I'm super excited to welcome back Laura Sinclair. Laura is a real estate agent in South Carolina. She is also like a concierge, so she helps new movers find real estate agents across the country, which I love, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we have Jeremy Moyer. So Jeremy is a mortgage lender out of South Carolina as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the rates have climbed over the course of the past year and a half, 2 years. We're going to talk about, how people are pivoting, and then a little bit about my journey as well, because as most people know, if you've been listening to the show, I'm considering moving again, probably something a little bit more permanent, hopefully, but I have a low interest rate. And so that's definitely a factor that I'm looking at. So we'll start by some introductions because they're going to do it better than I can do. So Laura, why don't we start with you? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Mariette. I love talking with you, so this is going to be really fun. I'm Laura. I am a real estate agent in South Carolina, although I am actually transitioning more full-time into my new business, which I'm very excited about. Laura Makes Moves. I'm here to be a resource for all home buyers, but I love first-time home buyers because I know there's lots of questions. And also people who are making big relocations, just to give moving tips and tricks and advice, but also help them get in touch with the right professionals who can guide them every step of the way. So I've been loving that. It's been about a year of transition, and I'm super thrilled to be doing it mostly full-time at this point.
What's amazing is that if you go to Laura's website, lauramakesmoves.com, sign up for her email list, she's got it's like a 48-page checklist moving guide. I mean,
that thing's beefy.
Beefy and amazing. You can use mine for the first 6 months prior to a move, and then you can jump on hers and take that the rest of the way home. So I love
it. We're a good pair. I love being able to refer people to you because a lot of people ask me about how they know if it's time to move or how they know if it's time to buy a house. And I have some generic answers, but Marriott's the coach. She gets in your psyche and helps you understand yourself. So that's a gift you have.
And we got to meet in person, for the first time ever. But we've been friends now for almost a year, a little over a year.
Yep.
And we got to meet in person. We had coffee the other day. We probably could have talked for 3 hours.
Yeah, that was really fun.
It was really fun. So, and then Jeremy is somebody that you've worked with as a real estate agent. So Jeremy, welcome to the show. You're a first timer on the show, but your conversation is incredibly relevant right now. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Jeremy Moyer. I've had the pleasure of working with Laura a whole bunch here in South Carolina, helping her get first-time home buyers and homes and from different programs that are out there. A lot of times people, I think when they think about buying a home, they just like, well, is there one option for me? Well, actually, there's lots of options when it comes to buying a home, and you got to make sure you're working with a good team from a realtor's perspective and a lender's perspective to find the right fit for you. So, yeah, I've lived in South Carolina for about 8 years now, right here on the Georgia border, and I'm originally from up north in Pennsylvania. And it's finally getting cold down here. Laura, I don't know if you're enjoying it.
I know. You're not.
There's a reason I moved down here was to get away from the cold weather. And when I scrape ice off my windshield, I think I didn't move far enough south sometimes.
It'll warm up again. It never stays cold for long.
It's gonna be 80 next week. So
it could be.
Oh, I guess I love it. Well, and from a mortgage perspective, you can work with anybody across the country, but they have to be buying in South Carolina. Is that correct, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, so in my position as a retail lender, I'm able to work with any home buyers who are buying in any state that I'm licensed. And I can go get licensed in multiple states. Right now, we live on the Georgia-South Carolina border, so it makes sense for me to be licensed in both those states. Working on a Florida license right now because, I do have lots of friends, colleagues, business people who want to, hey, I want to have a house in Florida. Maybe someone wants a house up in North Carolina mountains. So we can, as a lender, we can be licensed in multiple states.
Okay. Well, so we have had a crazy last couple of years. I mean, I think if you look back to like 2020 from the pandemic, when people were like crazy moving, like
everywhere,
getting, $100,000 over asking and doing all of that stuff. In the last like year-ish, it has kind of been resetting, and like, I don't know if resetting is the right word, Laura. You could probably talk about it.
Stabilizing. I think that's the term.
Stabilizing. That is a great term. Yeah. So like what happened? Like why, like, I mean, I know people could leave their house now, so it's a little bit different, but I feel like it was just more like people like realized they hated their house after having 24 hours a day in it. You know what I mean? So like let's talk about that. Cause I know I felt that, but I ended up moving to North Carolina during that time. So
Yeah, it was a huge exodus from all over the place. I think there's a whole lot of factors. I mean, the primary one, and I'm sure Jeremy can speak to this, is the low interest rates. I mean, they were historically low, not just, oh, that's nice and low. Like they were low. They hit the ground. So there was that. And then coupled with COVID, people needing to make their homes work for them. And then coupled with the booming of remote work that was a result of COVID meant people could keep their salary from out west or up north. They could move down south, get the weather they wanted, get the lower cost of living they wanted. I mean, all these factors just collided to make this real estate storm happen. And it was a whirlwind. It was fun, but it was chaotic.
Yeah. A friend of mine from California, like they bought their house, like I think it was like 10 years ago or something. They paid $1.1 million, which in like Moraga, California, that is a steal. Doing all of this work to it. They sold it for like 2.6 or something crazy. I could be wrong on the numbers here. But then they ended up buying a house that was like 2 or 3 times the size in Florida for half the amount, right? So like super crazy things happening. I know I got in, I think my mortgage rate was 2.85 is what I kind of bought into, which I want to talk about the buying of mortgage rates as well, Jeremy, at some point. I mean, we can talk about that now a little bit. But like, I know I think the rate was like 3.06 or something like that. But I know that I could buy down that rate, and I bought it down to like 2.85 by putting a little bit more down. Like, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah. So in the lender world, if you're buying a home, you're going to get what should be called a loan estimate. We call it an LE. And that's going to be kind of your first original document that you're going to get from your lender. It's going to show you all your costs, your fees, where all that money's going. Because you think about buying a house, you're like, okay, this is how much it costs to buy this house. And all of a sudden you realize, why am I paying more than what I think I should be paying? It's because of all the fees. So, you have your attorney fees, closing fees. When you're buying a house, you have to pay upfront insurance and taxes that go into your escrow account.
Yeah.
So because your escrow account, if you're a homeowner, your escrow account is supposed to have 12 months roughly of upfront payments in it at all times. And so you have to fund that little nest egg prior to buying your house. And so when you're looking to buy your house, there's lots of fees. On your loan estimate, though, it's going to show you what you're paying. Now, there's two terms that people want to be looking at. One's called origination, and one's called discount points. In our world, we kind of see it. It's almost the exact same thing, but some banks, some lenders will just use different terms for it. So, for example, if you see a word called origination fees on your loan estimate, that's essentially a fee that the lender is charging to do the loan, and they're going to probably have a lower interest rate than a lender who's not showing origination costs. So, for example, my company at Movement, we don't charge origination. So, if a lender or if a home buyer comes to me and says, "Hey, well, why is this company, maybe $2,000 cheaper on my closing costs, or why is my interest rate 0.25% lower?" I can say, well, they're charging you an origination cost and we're not, so that's why they can give you a lower rate. What we do on our side is we say, well, we can give you what we call a discount point, which we take. What I would do in that situation as a lender is I would say, well, this other company is charging you $4,000 origination fees. If I take $4,000 to match their chart and I give you that in the form of a discount point, I can lower your interest rate by X amount. So origination and discount points are the two terms that are used to raise or lower rate. Laura, I'm sure you get this example a lot. Like people will say, well, what's my interest rate going to be? Yeah. I had a realtor text me yesterday, hey, rates are dropping, right? Like what's interest rates right now? And I said, well, there's a million scenarios that calculate an interest rate. I actually did a post, I think last year on my Instagram. There's actually like 32 factors that go into calculating what your interest rate's going to be. What? There's a lot of factors. So it's from the county that you live in, credit score, how long you've been in your job, is there a co-borrower? Are you getting a gift for funds? So all those things calculate into that interest rate.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Yeah, no one size fits all for interest rates.
I usually just tell people it's between 6 and 9.
Right. They're like, that's not helpful, thanks.
But yeah, you can't really, you don't want to give someone bad information as a lender. So even if a home buyer calls me and says, hey, if I don't have any of their information, if we don't have an application, if I don't have a credit report, and they say, hey, what's interest rates would be on a house that I wanted to buy in, down by the river for, $700,000. Well, I can give you a ballpark, but if you want actual numbers, I need actual numbers to work on myself. Yeah.
And I just pictured Chris Farley down by the river.
Because I might look at your credit report and your income and say you can buy a van. Maybe we can buy a van.
I feel like that is just as expensive these days. Like I want to.
True.
This year, my neighbor accidentally totaled my car when it was sitting on the street, and I ended up having to buy a car because my car was already paid off. And like even then, it went up like it was like 6% interest rate. And I was like, what? And that felt so heavy. But now, like interest rates on a home, what are they like up around 8%ish? Obviously there's 32 factors that look, but that's a huge factor. And like Laura, from a real estate agent perspective, I'm literally sitting at 2.8, and everybody's like, you should keep your house, get a what's it called, property manager, and rent it out. My subdivision only allows like 2 years or more leases. There's no like Airbnb thing. So it's like, to me, a lot of damage can be done in 2 years. I don't know that I want to be a long distance landlord, especially if I move back to Chicago or move to Florida. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. There's a lot of risks there.
Boom. Play it.
Have you ever listened to a commercial on the radio or a podcast and thought, I could totally do that? Well, I am challenging you today. Being a voiceover artist is an amazing side hustle that can be done from the comforts of your own home. Heck, it can be an amazing career. Just ask Jesse Carroll. Jesse's got over 1,000 voiceover credits to his name. Ever watch Backroad Truckers? He's the narrator. He's also done a ton of commercials for brands you would definitely recognize. If you're ready to try your hand at voiceovers, go to marriottsonthemove.com and head to my favorites page to learn more about his new digital course and coaching package. If you use code MOTM, you'll get 20% off at checkout. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me, since I just happened to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing. And their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties, so essentially, robustness approved. Now back to the show.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what should I be thinking about? Worst decision ever. I hate it.
It is hard. I mean, that's a tough position, and I do empathize with you there. I mean, you're a coach, so you know this. At the end of the day, it comes back to your priorities and your goals. Could I potentially show you on paper how it would be financially beneficial to you to do that plan? Yes. I mean, I do think in the long run, even with the risk of damage, you probably have better chances of making money that way, opposed to doing the sell and buy or the sell and rent. That being said, if it's going to cause you emotional and mental turmoil to have this property, is it worth the financial gain? So that's really, I think, your question in your scenario. But if people are wondering how to work around this interest rate thing, there are lots of creative financing ways. And I'll let Jeremy, get into the nitty gritty of all that. But there's lots of things you can do. One of them being renting out your property. Some of them being pulling out like a cash equity or an equity line of credit and cash to put on a down payment, or to put on discount points to get that rate down. There's a few options that you can do if you're considering a sale and buy and you're going from that beautiful sub 3 to the not so fun sub 8.
Yeah, I don't even know how. I mean, I'm a child of the Dave Ramsey program, and he is very, very, very against home equity loans. Although I do see like how the benefits could be there. I mean, I know I hate to say it, there's a lot of shame in his program, and I've taken some flack for that, but at the same time, a home equity line of credit, like I probably have about $100,000 worth of equity in this house based on the money that I put down. Plus, like when I bought this house, so I built this house, first of all. So it was a new home build. I went through the lender of the builder, because it was like a screaming good deal. They gave me a ton. I mean, they gave me like $5,000 of closing cost credits, which
Lovely.
I ended up paying the most I've ever paid in closing costs.
They tricked you with that disclosure that Jeremy told you about.
You don't say. I don't believe it.
It was, yeah. But right after I signed on the house, because it took, but once I signed in July, and then I moved on December 29th, so it'll be 2 years, December 29th of this year. But once I signed on it, like a month and a half, 2 months later, they announced that they're doing a whole like river entertainment. Speaking of town by the river, I'm off the Catawba River, and so they're doing this huge entertainment district.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that my property value went through the roof, and plus,
yeah,
the pandemic didn't hurt.
Yep.
So I have a little bit of equity there. So I mean, tell me, what does that mean to pull equity out to put on a down payment? That sounds really smart.
Yeah. So a home equity line of credit is a great option for people who have a locked in, either 15, 25, 20, 30-year mortgage, who don't want to mess with that rate.
Yeah.
In the past, during COVID, we were refinancing and doing cash out refinances all the time. Someone says, hey, I want to build a pool. I want to go pay off my 18, 25% credit cards, or I want to pay off a car and lock in. Hey, I can take my whole home. So let's say, you have a $500,000 home and you owe $300,000 on it. Well, you can go ahead. Hey, let me pull out $100,000. The highest you can really go on a home equity line of credit would be 80% of your home's value. Okay. So if your home's valued at $500,000, whatever your current mortgage is, you can pull the difference between that and up to $400,000. Oh, wow. So you could go a loan up to about $400,000, which would leave you 20% equity still in the home. So you can pull it out, and a cash out refinance, you would put that entire $400,000 under a new interest rate.
Interesting.
So the difference with a HELOC,
getting a cash, like a check in the mail from the mortgage company.
Yep. And I've grown up. My parents were steadfast Dave Ramsey, and that was so good for me. Like early on, what's that?
Weren't you even a pastor?
I was, yeah, yep. And so, it was very, very prevalent in growing up and all that. And it was so good for me when I first started out as a young adult, getting married, getting a house. It really sets you on a great path.
Yeah.
But as far as a HELOC goes, a HELOC is a great option because we have seen such incredible skyrocketing in home equity, right? Like the home that I have, I never thought it would gain the value that it did in the last 5 years. It's crazy. It's almost doubled. So I bought my home about 8 years ago, and it's almost doubled, which is mind blowing. But
Yep.
if I do have other debts that I say, hey, I need to pay these things off. You always want to be, according to Dave Ramsey, right? You want to get your debt gone. And the fastest way to do that, whether it's on paper or like Laura was saying, whether it's more of an emotional debt, you're like, hey, this debt actually drains me more. I think I want to take care of that one. So a home equity line of credit, what it does is allows you to, let's say back to our example, you have a $500,000 house. Let's say you only owe $300 on it. Instead of refinancing that entire current mortgage and losing that low interest rate, you're just, let me pull out $100,000. And so now I'm going to have a HELOC, which is essentially the same as a second mortgage. Yeah. So now I'm going to have my original mortgage for $300,000, which is at that 2 point something, hopefully interest rate. But then my HELOC is going to be the other $100,000, and that might be at the 7, 8, 9%. But it allows me to have two separate loans instead of me having to lose the chunk of my mortgage on because you don't want to move that up. You don't want that interest rate to change.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey, baby step 1 is that $1,000 in your emergency fund, which is really low in my opinion.
Well, I think he started that like 30 years ago. It hasn't changed.
Right. Now. So let's convert that to today. It's like 7,000.
Yeah. $1,000 does not go far today.
It's probably not paying people's rent either. But the second baby step 2 that Jeremy's referring to is wiping out all of your debt down to zero outside of your mortgage. So your mortgage is like baby step 6. But as far as like that, from a moving perspective, Laura, like when you're looking at houses, is that a factor for people right now? Like, I mean, I know it's a factor, but I kind of want to just rent for a while and not have like the weight of home ownership under, hanging over me. Right. Oh, I have a new house. Things still go wrong,
For sure. Yeah, let's talk about the renting to wait. That's actually a very good question. Are people doing it? Yes. So you're not alone. Is it necessarily the best financial move? Again, I don't think so. I don't think I could prove to you that you'll save money that way. But like you just said, it's going to make you feel better. That there's value in that at the end of the day, right? It can't always just be about the numbers. So if we're going to talk about renting and hoping to wait, a lot of people are waiting for those rates to come down. I actually have some stats here. So US News did a survey of like almost 2,000 home buyers. 17% of, by the way, there's a whole bunch of home buyers coming up right now because millennials are the home buying generation right now. They're everybody aged 27 to 42, and the average first-time home buyer is 33. Sorry, that was 33, 36 now. It's gone up since things have been more expensive. So we're right there. The millennials are a huge home buying population. There's millions of Americans who are getting ready to buy their first home. Maybe they are ready, but they're saying, okay, 8%, 7% feels way too high. I'm going to wait until interest rates come down. So 17% of those people who are ready to buy a house are waiting for rates to drop below 6.5. Okay. Another 28%. So together, a whopping 45% of people are waiting for it to come down below 6. And then you add another 30% to make 75% of ready home buyers are waiting for it to come below 5.5. So you're looking at a huge majority of the population. Millions of people are sitting on the sidelines waiting to purchase when those rates come down. So if we see them come down below 6.5, what's going to happen? Prices are going to shoot back up because inventory is still low. It has been improving, but it's still low. And then below that 6, it's going to shoot up even more. If we got below 5.5, I mean, we would be seeing this exact same problems we saw when the COVID boom happened. We'd be having people paying over appraisal. We'd be having multiple offers. We'd be having those record high prices, and the rates wouldn't be even as low as they were before. So it would be even more expensive.
But it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, right? Like if we're looking at the national debt and like the feds and all of that you hear about on the news, like it doesn't seem like it's going to go down anytime soon. It seems like it'll stabilize a little, but not under 5%. I mean,
Yeah. What are you hearing, Jeremy?
Yeah, we talk about people who are locked in at a 2%, 3%. I talked to a lady the other day. She was actually in the ones on her home mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
1.8, I think. We're never going to see that in our lifetime again. I would put money on that because it's just not going to happen. They can't afford it. The Fed can't afford it. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they can't afford it. You think about how much money, if you could just wrap your brain around this, how much money is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac losing on all of those mortgages that now they've lended millions, if not billions of dollars at sub 3% rates.
Yeah.
So every one of those mortgages, that as long as people are holding on to those mortgages, they are losing money every day because of what they could be making with that money out there in someone else's pocket at a 7, 8, 9% rate. Wow. And I was listening to something the other day. If you're a homeowner out there and you have a mortgage, they said don't be surprised if you almost get in the next maybe 3 years. I don't want to put false hopes in anyone's mind, but lenders being able to come to you and say, "Hey, listen, we're going to offer to forgive a portion of your home." Like if Mary, you have a rate of this money that you have at 2.something%. Yep. If that lender can say, "Hey, listen, we just need to get out of this. We want to go ahead and just forgive this, move it on, so we can take that money and move it somewhere else, get this off of our books because you as a 2% home buyer are clogging up our system because they only have so many loans to go around, right? And so they need to get that money and move it on."
Wipe out my mortgage and I would just get to keep the house?
There's talks that they would come in and try to settle in some way.
How do I get for that?
Yep. I think that we are going to see really interesting things start happening in that realm of it because of the shift that we've gone from that 2% in like only 3 years, right? Like I was looking at numbers too from 2020. You were in the 1, 2, even 3 was high in 2020, right? You're like I'm not. It's 3%. I'm not buying. That's too high.
It was making me nervous because I kept seeing it go up and up, and I was like, I gotta buy. And I was sitting on the money from the house that I had just sold because when I relocated for work, I sold my house and I think I got 3 offers in 12 hours and I accepted one. So like it wasn't even 24 hours, but I was like, I had the money in the bank. I was ready to buy a home. And my cousin Timothy was my real estate agent here in Charlotte. And we probably God, I love him so much for how patient he was because he probably showed me, you guys, 35 houses. I'm not even kidding.
And that was not abnormal then.
No. And by the time we walked out of some of these houses, they were already sold. 3-minute walkthrough. And like he would call me in the morning and be like, "Oh my gosh, we have to get to this house right now." And by the time we there were cars everywhere waiting
right.
for this house. I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then of course, like, photographers are very creative and they make houses look amazing. And we walk in and we'd be like, "Wait, where's the rest of this?" Like, what? And I'd be like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's
so true."
Yeah.
So back to your question, Mariette, essentially, if you wait for those rates to come down, the numbers are looking like it's going to be that kind of scenario again. Maybe not as intense. Who knows? No one can see the future. But when people ask me that question, I say, if renting makes sense for your goals and the things you want to do, like maybe you don't want to feel tied to that place for the first year, then that makes sense, right? You don't really need to consider the numbers. But if your goal is to continue to move that financial growth that you're using your home as an asset to back, if you want to keep moving that up and growing that pool, I do think you need to keep trading. Whenever you step into the rental market, even if it's temporary, you're going to lose cash that just goes from your equity that you had into your renter's pocket or landlord's pocket, sorry. So you lose that, but then you also lose the gains that happen over that year or that 2 years that you don't own real estate. So the financial answer is, try and keep buying, but the answer for you might be different.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we often think about it in like 1-year rentals and with the advent of like Airbnb and like different VRBO. In fact, later today, I'm having a conversation with somebody that's doing rental arbitration. So he works in the baseball. He owns a baseball training facility for, professional baseball teams. And like, so he'll have people come in. So he'll do a 3-year rental and lock it in with that.
Nice.
Landlord, and then he'll rent it out for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, if a player's coming in with his family and needs to have.
Right.
So there's all kinds of options. And, for me, like even finding a place that is, a 6-month option or, and it's already furnished and things like that. I mean, things like that are a lot more common than people think, but we don't think about it. think about it, in 1-year rentals, like we're signing leases, whereas
Right.
now we have the option of short-term rentals or even like renting a room from someone. So
Very true.
I totally see where you're at for sure.
Yeah. And those can definitely be very good options. And like you said, it's becoming so popular now. A lot of cities have been cracking down on short-term rentals, which is, I mean, I get it from the perspective of the investors who own like 30 properties and they're just like tying up all the real estate. But yeah, that can be complicated for people like you, for people who move for work or for the military who really just need those short-term options. That's an interesting trend we're seeing too.
Yeah, because don't they have like permits? Like I know Newport Beach is where Kevin, the guy that I'm interviewing, he lives, and I think he said there's only like 1,500 rental permits for the whole city or something like that.
Wow.
That's in order to get into that area, he had to do rental arbitration.
Wow.
Yeah, so I do want to pivot though, because there are some really interesting things happening with the National Association of Realtors. And, if you get on Laura's Instagram, she's got a 2-part segment where she talks about kind of the changes and what it means to us. But I would really like to kind of talk through, because I know like if you look at traditionally and historically, you have a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, and they're not the same person usually. And if you do have
Right.
the same person, there's some things that, you have to be concerned about or worry about. So like, let's talk about that. What does that mean, like between the two?
Right. Yeah, good question. So let's start with dual agency is the term you're referring to when one agent represents both parties. So buyer, seller are each using one agent. The way dual agency is defined is that this agent represents both people's interests equally, which honestly, if you ask me, I don't see how that's possible. I don't understand how you can talk to the seller and say, hey, you want to get $50,000 more, and then go back to the buyer and say they want $50,000 more, but this is what you want. There's just no way to really do it ethically, in my opinion.
Yeah, because they know.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think it would be naive of us to assume that humans are capable of doing that fairly. But it's not just my opinion. There are multiple states across the U.S. that have made dual agency illegal. And I think that's definitely probably a good thing. Many states still allow it. And that's what we're probably going to see a lot more of if these changes that you're referring to with the lawsuit move forward. The lawsuit itself is very complex, and there's a lot of different viewpoints to consider. But essentially, the ruling that just happened, if I could sum it up, is that a jury decided that it's true that the National Association of Realtors, along with a handful of other large brokerages, have been conspiring to inflate commissions to consumers by offering a co-op fee. So the way our system has been working is that a seller will go to sell their house. They will hire a listing agent. The listing agent will say, this is my commission. It's always negotiable. That's written in all the contracts. This commission is negotiable. The seller and the listing agent will agree on that commission. And then the listing agent will split that sometimes 50-50, sometimes in different ways with the buyer's agent.
I've tried to negotiate and nobody has ever negotiated. I mean, like, even family, I'll be like,
even family.
He's like, no, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot, that's a whole other conversation that I'd love to get into. There's a lot of agents out there who are like, this is their argument. I think it's not necessarily wrong, but it's funny. They're like, look, if you're able to talk me down on my commission, how can you expect me to negotiate the best price for your house?
I am so excited to introduce you to the Silk & Sonder Monthly Planner. As a culture, we're more stressed, anxious, and burned out than ever. Without proactive practices in place to combat the stress of modern life, we're falling short of achieving that deeper fulfillment we crave. At Silk & Sonder, we meet you where you are, uncover where you want to go, and help you define a path that aligns with your values and goals. I am proud to be one of their ambassadors because I've tried several monthly, quarterly, and annual planners, and I needed so much more since I'm a multi-passionate person that travels almost weekly. I love that a new theme self-care journal is delivered to my doorstep every single month. It's filled with science-backed prompts and coaching exercises, trackers, and planning pages. Plus, there's an exclusive app with audio affirmations and community events. To join our community, go to marriottsonthemove.com and check out my faves page to learn more. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me since I just happen to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing, and their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties, so essentially, robustness approved. Now back to the show.
Best price for your house. And they're basically saying, like, I need to win this negotiation to prove to you that I'm going to win the other one. Which is, it's not necessarily wrong, but it is silly. Anyways, that's a little tangent. But yeah, so the commission is usually split between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. And that is what this verdict is trying to do away with. Now, the National Associations has said they are going to appeal, so this could be an ongoing thing for a few years. However, at the end of the day, if MLS boards are afraid of this lawsuit, because by the way, the plaintiffs won $1.78 billion. If MLSs are afraid of the same thing happening to them, they are likely to conform even before an actual law or change is put in place. So a lot of people are saying, don't worry about it. There's an appeal. It's going to take a while. That could be true. Some people are saying they're already seeing MLSs offering $0 to buyer's agents. We're going to have to wait and see.
What's an MLS?
So different regions all over, statewide, but then also countywide, have these boards, MLS boards, and they essentially are the ones who have all the agents in their system. That's where they upload their listings, and then the listings shoot out to all the other search sites on the internet. That's their main purpose. They do a lot of other stuff too, but that's really what matters to the consumer.
Yeah, I think a lot of the consumers will know like .com, Zillow, those, but when you sign up with a real estate agent, they have a separate kind of website you can go to search for homes that they can put parameters in place. Like I know for me, when I was like searching for this here, I wanted to be in a certain range of certain things, but to me, like schools didn't really matter because I don't have children. I wanted, certain tax brackets, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And essentially the MLS is just the original source. So it is what sends it out to all the other home search sites. If you're looking on Zillow, you're seeing the MLS listing, but Zillow's app doesn't necessarily pull all the data.
Got it. And then another like random tangent, which, I love my tangents. When you go into the rate, now that I like have this thought about 32 different like factors of a loan, when you go onto the Zillows and the Realtor.coms, you can calculate your like what the mortgage rate would, or not rate, but what your mortgage payment would be. How do they figure that out then?
Is it just like a general?
Yeah, the one of the greatest joys, I'm sure Laura would tell you the same thing, is when someone calls you and says, I saw on Zillow, right? Whether it's home value, we all know the jokes about the home values on Zillow. I even laugh sometimes when I look at my home on my Zillow estimate and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, when Zillow's trying to do that, they're trying to be helpful. They're trying to, in my understanding, they want to entice people to make a move, right? They're like, oh, this is great. Well, there's a lot of times that I've seen online the quotes that, number one, they have no idea how to calculate taxes or insurance for that property. So the taxes and insurance are actually a fairly large percentage, more higher than you probably would think of what your mortgage payment's going to be. Yeah. Right? Like, okay, I think I'm going to buy a $400,000 house. Here's my mortgage payment. But wait, taxes and insurance are going to be hundreds of dollars extra. Yep. And so a lot of times it misses that. But I think Zillow mainly probably tries to take probably the below average interest rate of what the average person would be seeing on there. I don't think they're not putting the lowest one on there. But they're probably trying to play to the audience in the field the best that they can. Yeah. Again, if you're on Zillow looking at houses, Zillow wants you to buy that house because that creates traction. It creates ad revenue. It creates just buzz in the business. So they want to.
They're also I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead, Laura.
I was going to say they're also a lead platform. So their job, they get paid to send people to Jeremy and to send people to me, not us specifically, because I don't use Zillow. I don't know if you do. But essentially that's how they make their money is from agents and lenders. So They need you to click the button that says show me this house, because then they're going to send your info to the agent, or they need you to click the button that says qualify me for this mortgage, because then they're going to send your info to the lender, multiple lenders, multiple agents at once usually. Yeah, they are a lead platform disguised as a home search site, which is good because it's a valuable app, right? Consumers need a place to look at homes. But I do think it's important consumers know what's happening when they click those buttons. That they're not there to show you the house; they're there to connect you with the agent.
I was gonna say it has become like a verb. Like, have you Zilla'd that? Like,
yeah,
it's true. Like, I have looked at my own home, but for me, it was hard because I built the house, so like the taxes. I didn't know what the taxes were going to be. I had like a kind of general idea of what they'd be based on what others were in the area. But going from Chicago, like I was living in Cook County in Chicago, my taxes were something like $9,000 or $10,000 per year, which was low.
Yeah.
I mean, no, so I think theirs was like 22,000 because they lived in Naperville. But you paid that in your mortgage, like in your mortgage payment every month. So like for me, it was like an extra $800 or $900 a month just in the taxes. So even if I paid off my house completely, I was still paying $800 or $900 a month for my taxes, unless I paid it all at once. As like,
I don't get how people live like that.
It's really yeah. But here, I think my taxes are like $2,600 a year, and in North Carolina, so it was a much better deal.
Yeah. It would be very hard to go the other way, to go from like the southeast and go up north. Ooh, that would hurt.
That's why I'm considering renting if I go to Chicago.
Oh, well, worth considering.
Yeah, well, but so going back to, I know I went off in a tangent, which I do often, and I apologize all the time for it. But like going back to the buyer's agent versus the selling agent, or like even just what's going on with the NAR, like what are the risks? Like what is that going to do to the real estate market, like the landscape, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if we have an answer yet. There's a lot of speculation. I mean, the big brokerage and Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com, all of their stock prices have plummeted after the ruling. So there's definitely going to be a big shift in things on the industry side. But for consumers, they are definitely going to have to watch and see what ends up happening. Ideally, people who want to buy their first home would love to not have to pay their agent, right? They already have to save their down payment. They don't have any equity to pull from. They're starting from nothing. So to add another $6,000 to $10,000, depending on the home price fee, out of pocket, that can definitely be a huge challenge for those first-time buyers and low-income buyers who are relying on that FHA loan or the USDA loan to get that down payment lower. This essentially can just set them back a handful of years. So that's going to be...
That's the impact? So like we end up as a buyer end up paying?
Yes. So as of now, the ruling is that buyers co-op commissions are the reason for inflated commissions. If that was the plaintiff's opinion, that's what their attorneys argued, and that's what the jury ruled. It's being appealed. However, if, like I said, MLS boards are afraid of having the same kind of lawsuit and losing, since this set a precedent, they might play the safe route, which would mean that sellers don't have to offer a buyer co-op fee. Can they still choose to? Yes. I think it will take years for the mindset of sellers to change. There's going to be a handful that are like, oh, the lawsuit happened, 0% to buyers. But I do think people are going to realize that does the sellers a disservice too, because at the end of the day, a buyer's agent can't work for free. So if it was me and I was showing a buyer and they were in love with a home that a seller was saying, we're not paying your agent, I'd have to say to them, I can show you this home, we can write an offer. But they're not paying a co-op fee. So if you want me to represent you on this transaction, that's going to have to come out of your pocket at closing. Well, actually, we don't even know if it's going to be at closing because there's questions there with some loans as well, if they can even do that. So
can you
there's
your mortgage loan payment or no?
Good question.
That'll be interesting to see if that becomes, there's nothing, because like Laura's saying, the people selling their home, my understanding, the reason that they pay both commissions is because they have the ones with the equity. They have the ones that the means to do that. I mean, you look at people buying houses right now. I would say at least probably half of the applications that we are seeing on a day in day out basis you could pretty much cut in half the amount of people looking to buy a home that they would no longer qualify if they had to pay the upfront buyer's commission. If they're paying what Laura, 2 to 3%, right? 3% average normal.
Yeah, somewhere between 2 and 3.
Yeah, so if they're buying even a $300,000 house, that's $9,000. Most of these home buyers do not have an extra $9,000 to pay an agent. So
yeah. And what happens to home prices when the demand cuts in half?
Yes.
So the irony is that I mean, NAR argued that this doesn't actually help home sellers. That wasn't the perception of the jury. So it's going to play out in a very interesting way. I think first-time home buyers and low-income buyers, VA buyers, because they are specifically prohibited from paying any commissions, are going to be the most affected in this change.
Yeah, because you get a couple people on that jury who own houses and have ever had to pay any of those fees. They're like, well, this sucked when I did it, like. So, that is a mess.
Well, so it is a mess.
I mean, I think things are changing so often and it's hard to keep up. And I think this fear, I mean, certainly something that I've considered and gone back and forth on, but like looking forward, like what does that look like for 2024? I mean, as of this recording, we're at the beginning of November. This is probably going to air closer to the new year because I obviously, I want to talk about 2024 and what that looks like. But if you were giving advice, both of you, to somebody that you're talking to, like what advice are you giving right now?
You want to go first, Laura?
You take it.
Okay. So the big thing right now is interest rates, right? Home prices too are way up, but no one's expecting home prices to drop anytime soon, right? Like they're here, they're not going back. If you look at the history of America, the world, the last 100 years, home prices have never gone down over a 2-year basis. Yes, there's drops here or there, and you might buy a house at its peak and it might drop in value maybe 5-10% for a year, but it's going to come right back and it's going to continue gaining value, gaining equity. So as Laura said earlier, buying a home really is one of the best financial decisions you can make for the long term, right? I remember when we relocated to South Carolina from Pennsylvania, we rented for 6 months. We found a place to rent for us for 6 months, and we said we need to find a house within that 6 months because we don't want to rent longer than 6 months. But we also didn't want to buy a house from across the country where we didn't know, hey, which school do we really want our kids to be at? What area of town do we want to be at? Which parks do we want to be close to? So we said, well, let's.
City POC. That's what I call it. That proof of concept, right? You gotta figure out where you want to actually live before you buy. You try before you buy.
Yep. So I think people who are looking to make a move, if you're moving somewhere you don't want to, you've never been before, renting for a short term is great, but you want to get back into the housing ownership market for yourself, in your financial future. Yeah. So when I tell people who are talking about interest rates, I kind of put us there. This is that if I was going to sell you a lottery ticket today, right? Well, if you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to win. I don't know if I want to play. But if I told you after the lottery is revealed for $3,000, I can let you change your number to anything you want it to be. Is it worth it? And that's the same way with interest rates. People who are on the fence about this interest rate thing, interest rates, let's say they're 7.5 right now. If you buy now and they go to 9, how do you feel? You feel great. You feel like I just won the lottery because I bought before they went up again.
That's how I feel.
If you buy now at 7.5% and they drop to 5.5, you refinance and you win again. Yeah. Refinancing. I don't know if people have a misconception about refinancing. It's not complicated. It's not hard. It doesn't cost a lot of money. A lot of lenders, especially us are here moving right now. We're doing no cost refinances in 2024 if you purchase before the end of the year. And so, yes, there'll be maybe a couple $100, maybe $1,000, $2,000 because you still pay the attorneys to redo the title work and recheck it. But when I refinanced my house, I saved 2% on my interest rate, and I refinanced it. It cost, I think, maybe $3,000, but I made that $3,000 in about 6 months because my interest rate dropped. So I reclaimed the money. I didn't pay anything out of pocket. I just rolled it back into my loan, got a better interest rate. So it really is a win-win. If you were a place, I tell people this, that if you want to buy, interest rates should be the last thing stopping you. Because if it goes up, you'll be so thankful that you bought it. If it goes down, you refinance, get a lower interest rate. It literally is a win-win. The only reason I would tell people not to buy now is if you're not sure where you want to buy, or you're potentially making a move soon. That's the reason to stay, as in the financial world, stay liquid, right? Stay flexible so you can make a move. But if there's so many families who are like, hey, I see myself here for the next 3 to 5 years. I think I might just rent because I'm not sure. 3 to 5 years from now, when you don't sell that house and make $100,000 in equity, you're going to be really sad that you're leaving a rental location and you're just going to get maybe a security deposit back.
Yeah, and
maybe
if you sell prior to that 2-year mark, you could potentially pay capital gains if your if your equity goes up that much. But I will say though, it is one thing. A girlfriend of mine and I, we had a whole conversation yesterday that a lot of people are not, like, when interest rates are that low, I felt like in the last couple of years, I saw a lot of people buy houses that were not within their means, right? Like you're like, oh, well, it's 2%. I can buy a $500,000 house because I'm only paying 2% on this. When really you should probably have been buying a $300,000 house just to stay within your like spending means, right? And I think that was the higher the interest rates go, I think that's really giving people pause to think like, should I be spending? It's like, it's one thing, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Like looking at how people's income in. I know when I was looking, the mortgage lenders through the builder that I worked with, he looked at my income because I had a really good year that year. I'm in sales. My income comes up and down every year. That's just how it rolls. And what he was trying to approve me for, I was like, no, time out. Like I'm good. Like, that's a lot of pressure right there because that number is going to go to my real estate agent, and he's going to be like, hey, look what you can do. And I'm like,
your brother, right? Or was it your cousin?
My cousin. So I was like, what my comfort level is, and if I were to, based on what I had in savings and based on what I know my day to day is on my base, that to me was just scary. And I know people that have done it. I mean, we look at the Silicon Valley, bottom dropping out back in the 2008, 2009. I remember specifically you guys having a conversation. I lived in San Francisco. I was working in Silicon Valley. I was at the front desk talking to somebody who worked at a very, very large tech firm that you probably use multiple times on a daily basis. And she was telling me that her and her husband just bought a brand new house. And, I was like, oh, let me see. She pulls up the listing and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, it was like a $1.5 million home. And I knew from conversations that her husband was a teacher and she was a receptionist. Like thinking like, okay, maybe they have stock or maybe they have trust funds and I remember thinking like, wow, like that is insane. And I started feeling like, I know I probably make more than them. Should I be looking at a 1.5 million? I don't know. That's crazy. But
yeah. Never make decisions based on what other people are doing for sure.
Like you cannot compare yourself. But that's the thing is like we look at this from a within your means. Well, what are your means? Like if you, especially like sales reps, like if you have a base, like I always think like, what if you don't get a couple months of commissions? Like what if somebody does a large return? Then, like you're living off your base unless you have a ton of money in savings. It's not smart to have that portion of your income be sucked up by your mortgage or your rent, But,
yeah, that's hard. I mean, 1099 contractors are a whole different ballgame when it comes to home loans. We could probably do another episode on that.
I bet. So, Laura, what's your perspective on 2024? What do you think you're going to be seeing?
Oh boy, 2024. I was doing a bit of reading up on this morning, and it all said the exact same thing I expected to say. Nobody knows, but most economists expect prices to stay high. I mean, just the general advice. It just doesn't make sense. As long as there are as many people as there are looking for homes and as few homes as we have on the market, there's no way for that home value to drop. And then you add in the fact that so many Americans have like almost half, if not more, of their home's value in equity because of the way the prices have gone up. And the way their rates have gone down. So, I mean, you add those things together, Americans have cash in the bank, cash in their home. There's not enough homes and there's a lot of demand. I mean, none of those things equal prices coming down. Could something insane happen and there could be some weird anomaly? Yeah, like that's always an option. I never make life decisions based off of random, crazy, fearful events. And that's not just money. I mean, same thing with, I get on an airplane. Could it crash? Yes. So that's just my own philosophy of life. It keeps me moving forward. But yeah, we don't know. But a lot of people do think prices will stay high. I think, Jeremy, you've already said that rates are expected to continue to stabilize, but not plummet. So people can kind of expect 2024 to look very similar to this year.
Yeah. And I tell people too, if you talk with a lender, if you're worried about the interest rate, if it's people who are worried about the interest rate, that is a numbers fear, right? I fear or I feel I'm paying too much. If you literally just go put it on paper, what the interest rate costs you, like the difference between a 6% and 8%, if you did the numbers and you look at that and then you did a financial breakdown of what your rent cost you, the numbers would they would scare you out of renting because it's frightening.
True.
When you look, what am I paying? The interest effect of renting versus that 2% difference between like, oh, it's at 8%. Once it drops to 6%, then I'll buy.
Yeah.
The money that you're losing in that time period, it's a massive amount that people don't think about that. They just think that 2%, I need to wait for 2%. But they're losing a lot more financially on paper renting.
Yeah, I would prefer, I mean, I know you probably have I've seen it in an Excel spreadsheet where you can kind of calculate out the interest like that you will end up paying long term down the road. Like I remember looking at my mortgage for my house in Orland Park, and if I just paid the actual mortgage payment and nothing over it, I think I was going to pay like $150,000 in interest payments down, over the course of 30 years. So there's so many things to think about. I love the idea of like having a conversation and really putting some time into this because a lot of people make spontaneous decisions. But if anybody wants to have that conversation, how can they find you?
My website, movewithjeremy.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Also on social media, Instagram, Facebook, great ways to reach out to me. But my website, movewithjeremy.com, you can reach me there. My personal cell phone's on there. I do all my business. I'm on the phone. I'm on this thing. Laura, if you've ever been around me, I probably stepped down multiple closings. Like, I got to take this.
I can fetch that. I actually one time was at we both have kids around the same age, and I was at this place called Playland, indoor play park, and Jeremy was there working. I don't think we even like said hi that day because you were so busy. You were like back there on your computer and on your phone. I was like, oh, he's working today.
Yeah. My kids were having a blast in the playtime, and I was trying to close a deal. So
you made it happen.
I don't think they let adults on that one. So
right.
Move with Jeremy on Instagram too, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And LauraMakesMoves.com is your website, Laura.
Yep.
Your Instagram as well, right?
Yep. Instagram at Laura Makes Moves. Please reach out to me there. Shoot me a DM. I love doing what we're doing right now, having this conversation. I think people think when they talk to professionals in the industry, they're going to get like, I don't know, some generic answer. And it's like, do this or get lost. This is what good professionals in the industry do. This is why I started my business, was to help people talk to people like Jeremy and to other real estate agents across the country that do this. Like, we're consultants. Before we get you a loan, we help you make decisions. We help you think through all the options. At least the good ones do. So if you've ever felt like someone didn't do that, then you weren't with the right professional, and they're not all like that, I promise. Just reach out, shoot us a question. We're here to chat.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're like helping new relocators, like handhold them through and vet out new real estate agents and all that stuff. So both of them do amazing reels. They're so educational. I think you both have the heart of a teacher and the heart of a servant, and I love everything you guys are doing. So that was my pleasure to have you guys on the show. I so appreciate it. I'm sure it won't be the last time. We might have to do this a couple times next year because I'm sure things are going to change every single quarter. But thank you so much for being on the show. And I love the conversation.
Pleasure, Mariette. Thanks so much, Laura. Always a pleasure.
You bet.
See ya.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.